Salam Media, and you are tuned into the Ashraf Garda Show.
So we've been talking about Sentio. We've been talking about Sentio all throughout Ramadan. So let's find out more about the company and the voices around Sentio Capital. With me is Imtiaz Suliman, who's the director and portfolio manager there. Imtiaz, good morning. Appreciate your time. Salam alaikum. Okay, I think we've just lost that connection just for a moment. We'll try and pick up on that right after this. Okay, I think we should be okay now. These delays are clear. So, I mean, here you are. We've been chatting about Sentio Capital, just to remind you, all throughout Ramadan and the work that they do. But let's find out more about some of the products that they involved in directly. So I just want to get the go-ahead to say whether, in fact, we do have Imtiaz Suliman on air or back on air. And once I get that, we will be good to go. Okay, that'll come up pretty shortly. Reminder, we're going to end the show with a chat to the in that Imam profile with Maulana Naim Mullah Chunara, who's the Imam at the mosque in Polokwane, the Masjid al-Firdaus Mosque in Polokwane. Okay, let's talk about Sentio Capital then, or Sentio Capital Management. Imtiaz Suliman with me, Director and Portfolio Manager there. Imtiaz, appreciate your time. Good morning. Salam alaikum, and glad that you could talk to us.
Wa alaikum salam. Good to be with you again, Ashraf.
Thank you. So I suppose, I mean, yes, we've spoken about this earlier in the month, but it requires a necessary relook at the company and the profile of what is it that you guys do. So tell me about Sentio.
Yeah, basically, Sentio is a fully fledged asset manager. We started 16 years ago. We've got two Sharia compliant unit trusts that we offer to investors. The one is a Sharia compliant equity fund, and the other is a Sharia compliant balance fund. Basically, we play in the listed space. That means we invest in shares, we invest in sukuks, listed property. And the idea there is to achieve or help investors achieve their long-term goals in terms of their savings. So whether it's for retirement, whether it's for discretionary spend, or if someone just wants to save a little bit for the children's education, etc.
And in doing that, I mean, in terms of the Sharia investment specifically, I mean, I gather that your track record suggests that it's working and it's delivering value for the investor through you.
Yeah. So over time, what we try to achieve is to grow that savings in terms of an amount that's greater than the consumer price index, because inflation erodes the value of money. So you want to make sure that the investor gets some growth, and that growth can come from two parts. The one is capital growth. So that is, if you buy a share for 100 Rand, it goes up to 110 Rand. The 10 Rand is capital growth. And the second element of that is income growth. So as shares pay dividends, that income also forms part of the total returns. And, we pick stocks within the JSE, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, as well as globally. And then we also invest in sukuk. So the whole idea there is to find those shares that will outperform over time, and we buy and sell shares as the valuation becomes full, or if it's looking too cheap. There's a lot of factors that go into the whole process, analyzing the financials of a company, looking at the macro environment, where are we in the cycle. So for example, there's a lot of concern now around what's happening geographically in terms of the US. Is the economy slowing down? Is China coming out of the lockdowns? All of these factors is what we take into account. South Africa just raised interest rates last week, and we try and build portfolios that can withstand these different macroeconomic environments.
Okay, you mentioned the Sharia products, but of course your portfolio is beyond just the Sharia products, right?
Yeah, so we've got conventional products as well, but that's also in the unit trust space, and that enables us to analyze a wide spectrum of different investment opportunities. But for the Sharia space, that is limited in terms of what the governance around Sharia investing. So, for example, from a Sharia perspective, you shouldn't have companies that are over leveraged. We don't invest in companies that have activities in alcohol, in pork products, in tobacco, weapons. Basically, companies that do no harm are allowed, and companies that do harm are excluded. So these are the tenets from a Sharia perspective.
All right. I've always enjoyed your reflecting on your tagline, "Invest for good." Right. Tell me what that how does that manifest in terms of the work that Sentio does?
Yeah, so it sort of spans across multiple tenants. So, for example, when we say invest for good, we want to make sure that when we invest on behalf of the investors who trust us with their money, to put that money into good use. So, for example, as I mentioned, we're not going to invest in companies that do harm. So, you've got companies that make weapons, companies that sell alcohol. Again, from a Sharia perspective, it's excluded, but also companies that might be accepted and do harm, those will be excluded. And then secondly, invest for good is also in terms of donating some of the profits that the company makes to charitable causes. And this makes the investment, so much more tangible and worthwhile. And then invest for good also spans across the company, making sure the company is run from an ethical perspective. All of the employees or partners are on board and treated in a manner that's they enjoy coming to work. So it spans across multiple facets, and the whole philosophy is invest for good, whether it's just investing or also on the softer side.
Okay, that's very good. I mean, are you at liberty to tell us about some of those initiatives that you partner with others on? Can you tell
Yeah,
us?
so we've got multiple initiatives. We partner with some of the charities. For example, your viewers might be familiar with the Caring Women's Forum, Ashraful Aid. Those are some of the charities that we partner with. They have multiple projects on their side. For example, there's an upliftment project where they train some of the beneficiaries in terms of baking skills. And once they upskilled in that skill, they become self-sufficient and they can almost run their small, medium enterprise business on their own. So it's all about self-empowerment, upliftment. There's also bursaries in terms of education. There's donations to some of the sickly in terms of wheelchairs, medical equipment. So it spans a wide range of activities.
And that's very good. Which just leaves me then maybe the last one. People listening, people watching is like, hey, I need to connect with Sentio Capital. How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so the easiest way would be to go to the website, which is www.sentio-capital.com, or they can call on 011 880 1994. And then lastly, we also on some of the social media platforms for the professionals out there, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter as well.
Okay, and there we are. So Sentio Capital is what you need to follow, sentiocapital.com, sentio-capital.com, and that email as well, info@sentiocapital.com. Imtiaz, Suliman, appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll talk more Sentio in the coming weeks as well during this month of Ramadan. Thank you for your time.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
There we are. Imtiaz Suliman is the Director and Portfolio Manager at Sentio Capital Management. We'll focus on an Imam and his story right after this.